Well, I like to make a distinction between the things in our lives that we call struggles or difficulties. We'll just call them struggles. And facts. Our struggles and facts, the facts of life. Now, the fact is that I am 6'1". The fact is that I am 61 years of age. Fact is that I weigh 185 pounds. Fact is all of the things that are unchangeable about my life are facts. Fact is that my hairline has receded slightly since I was a little boy, all the way to the back of my neck. These are the facts. Now, if any one of you were to tell me tomorrow, I would like you to come to this lecture hall, and I would like you to be 5'4", and I'd like you to be 30 years of age, and I'd like you to have a full head of hair, please. All right? You would say, well, you can't do that because the facts are such, and you can't do anything about the facts. Most of you would agree that you can't be a different age or different height, a different sex, and so on, than you are right now. Is that correct? These are the facts of your life. And there's lots of those facts, lots of them. How much is in your bank book, what kind of work you do, what kind of education you've had in your life, and so on. These are all facts. Now, the problems or the struggles that you face in your life are something very different. These are the result of how you interpret things and so on. You understand that you can do something about the struggles and about the problems and about the things that you face in your life. That you can do something about. You can change the way you think, the way you process things. You can move. You can change relationships. There's a lot of things that you can do. You can go back to school. You can learn a new trade. There's endless numbers of things you can do about the problems, the struggles that you face in your life. We can do lots of things about that. But you can't do anything about the facts. The real facts, and there aren't too many. But the biggest fact of your life that you can do absolutely nothing about is your past. And most people spend about 80% of their mental energy on trying to change or being upset about the facts. And that's what I'd like you to take a look at when I say give up your personal history. It's a fact. I gave up my personal history. I gave up the idea that I was feeling sorry for myself for being an orphan, or for living in foster homes, or for not having a father. I gave it all up and realized that that was a choice that I made, perhaps unconsciously, perhaps even before I ever showed up. Who knows? But who's to question it? How can you question the facts? I don't go around and say, you know, I was born in 1940, I should have been born in 1460. I mean, you don't go around saying that. You say, that's the fact of my life. I showed up on the 10th of May in 1940. That's the day I showed up. And by giving up our personal history, what we do is we give up our attachment to the past and our bonding to our wounds. And we merge into something much more powerful, into this thing called the now. And the now is easy to talk about, but difficult for most people to be in, and yet it's the only place you can ever be. Every moment that you have of guilt in your life about what could have happened, what should have happened, takes place in the now. So people have often said, well, guilt is just a way of living in the past. There is no possibility of living in the past. It's an illusion of the ego. You can't live in the past. What you do is you use up your present, being immobilized over what took place in the past. But you're always in the present. And that's the only place that God is. Here, in this moment. And you don't worry by living in the future. There's nobody out there living in the future. You're living now, in the present, using up your moments now to be immobilized over what might or might not happen down the road. But make no mistake about it, that's all taking place now. This is all you get. Just the now. And to use up your now with this personal history, one of the great glories of giving up your personal history is you give up guilt along the way. You just give it up. And you start to look at all of these people that were in your life who did all of these things that you think they shouldn't have done. And instead of being mad at them and angry at them and using up your now with that anger and with that hatred and that bitterness, you begin to practice letting it all go. It's about understanding that people come into the world and do what they know how to do. Given the circumstances of their life, they do what they know how to do. It isn't good or bad. It isn't right or wrong. It isn't moral or immoral. It's just they're doing what they knew how to do. There is a sacred illusion that has governed the human mind for thousands of years, an illusion that God is somewhere else out there, above the clouds, hidden in holy books, locked behind rituals, or found only in the presence of saints and prophets. We were taught to look up, to kneel down, to chase something grand and far away. But what if the greatest secret of all, the secret whispered in every ancient text, the truth behind every miracle, is that God has never been outside of you? Not for a single breath, not for a single heartbeat. God is not above you. God is not around you. God is not hiding in a temple or buried in the sand. God is not an entity floating in the heavens, counting your sins or judging your failures. God is not a being. God is a presence, a vibration, a frequency, an energy. And that energy lives inside of you. It pulses in your chest, not just as a heartbeat, but as a rhythm of cosmic intelligence. It rises with the sun through your thoughts. It flows with your breath as inspiration. It sings in your silence and whispers in your intuition. It is the light behind your eyes, the warmth behind your love, the stillness behind your peace. You don't have to go anywhere to find it. You only have to remember, you have never been separate. You've only believed that you were. We were born into a world that confused form with truth. We were told we were bodies. We were told we were names, histories, roles, genders, religions, nationalities. We were given identities to wear like masks in a theater. But behind every mask is the same light, the same essence, the same eternal current of being that has no label, no boundary, no limitation. You are not a body with a soul. You are a soul having a brief, sacred, passing experience in a body. And that soul, your soul, is not disconnected from God. It is God. Not the entirety, but the expression, the drop that contains the whole ocean, the flame that reveals the nature of fire. You are the divine, individualized. And if that is true, and it is, then everything about your life begins to change. Because no longer do you search for peace outside of yourself. You no longer chase love from others like a beggar. You no longer strive to be good enough, holy enough, worthy enough. You realize that you already are. Because how can that which is divine be unworthy? Your worth is not negotiable. It is not determined by your past. It is not reduced by your mistakes. You are not here to earn divinity. You are here to express it, to remember it, to embody it. When Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you, he wasn't being poetic. He was describing a metaphysical reality, that the infinite lives in the finite, that the source is not out of reach, that the door to heaven swings open inward. The great mystics of every age have known this. Rumi wrote, "I searched for God and found only myself. I searched for myself and found only God." Lao Tzu said, "Knowing others is wisdom, knowing yourself is enlightenment." The Upanishads tell us, you are that. The Bhagavad Gita echoes, the self is the friend of the self. Even science, if you look closely, is beginning to whisper this truth, that consciousness is not an accident, but the ground of all being. And so the invitation of your life is not to find God. It is to remove everything that blocks your awareness of God within you. The ego is the veil. The past is the noise. The story is the distraction. But the truth has always been here. Still, silent, waiting. Like the sun behind the clouds, it doesn't argue, it doesn't force, it doesn't punish. It simply waits for your willingness to remember who you really are. And who are you? You are not your name. You are not your job. You are not your resume. You are not your trauma. You are not your bank account. You are not your followers, your likes, your clothes, your failures, or your successes. You are not the story others wrote for you. You are not the story you wrote to survive. You are the awareness behind the story, the still presence watching the movie of your life unfold. You are not the storm, you are the sky that holds it. You are not the pain, you are the presence it passes through. You are not the fear, you are the faith it tries to hide. You are not your ego, you are not your wound, you are not your past. You are the divine energy expressing itself through this temporary costume of form. And once you remember this, not just intellectually, but spiritually, cellularly, everything shifts. You stop looking for validation. You stop playing roles. You stop performing for love. You stop carrying guilt like a cross on your back. You stop needing to be fixed because you realize you were never broken. Your healing does not begin when the world changes. It begins when your perception changes. When you stop seeing yourself as separate from the source of life and begin to live as if you are one with it. Because there is no place you can go where God is not. Not because God is everywhere, but because everywhere is in God. Because existence itself is God in motion, love in form, spirit in rhythm. And your soul is a thread in that vast, endless tapestry of being. And this means that your life is not random, your pain is not pointless, your existence is not small. It means that the breath you are taking right now is holy. The moment you are in right now is sacred. The body you inhabit is a temple of energy, vibrating with ancient intelligence. You don't need to wait to die to return to God. You only need to awaken to the fact that you never left. Heaven is not a location, heaven is a level of awareness, and hell is not punishment. Hell is the illusion of separation. It is living as if you are alone, as if you are unloved, as if you are lost, but you are none of those things. You are found, you are held, you are guided, you are loved beyond comprehension, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. You are light wrapped in skin. You are infinity in motion. You are God, dreaming of being human for a little while. And when you awaken to this truth, forgiveness becomes easy because you recognize that the one you're forgiving is also the divine in disguise. Compassion becomes natural because every person you meet is you in another form. Love becomes unconditional because it's no longer a transaction, it's a transmission. And peace becomes your default because nothing can disturb the stillness of the soul that knows it is one with the all. So the next time you look in the mirror, don't just see a face, see the infinite gazing back at itself. The next time you feel alone, place your hand on your heart and feel the presence that has never left. The next time you pray, don't send your words into the sky. Listen for the answer rising from within. You are not trying to become divine. You are remembering that you already are. And this remembrance, this return, is the beginning of true freedom. You don't need to fight for what already belongs to you. You don't need to beg for what you already are. And you don't need to wait for someone else to awaken. First, you are the awakening. You are the permission slip. You are the spark that lights the fire of remembrance in others, just by being who you truly are. When you walk into a room fully grounded in your divine essence, you don't need to say a word. Your presence becomes the sermon. Your peace becomes the teaching. Your authenticity becomes the miracle. Because when you remember that God is not outside of you, you stop chasing and start radiating. You stop searching and start serving. You stop trying to become and you begin to be. You begin to live like the lotus, rooted in the mud, but blooming in the light. You begin to live like the sun, not asking the world for permission to shine. You begin to live like the ocean, deep, powerful, and undisturbed by the surface waves. This is not about religion. This is about revelation. This is not about dogma. This is about direct experience. You don't need a middleman to access the divine. You only need stillness. You only need silence. You only need the courage to sit with yourself until the noise fades and the truth rises. And what is that truth? That you are not alone. You never were. That everything you've been searching for, love, peace, worth, wholeness, is already within you. That God is not a being in the sky. God is the being within all beings. The eternal I am that speaks through your breath, moves through your hands, sees through your eyes. When you hold a newborn child and feel your heart crack open with wonder, that's God. When you stand in nature and feel awe wash over you like a baptism, that's God. When you forgive someone who never said sorry and feel the chains break in your chest, that's God. When you sit in the silence of your own soul and feel the warmth of presence, that is God. God is not something you understand. God is something you remember. And every moment of your life has been guiding you back to that remembrance, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones. Because pain is often the chisel that cracks the shell of illusion. Suffering is the wake-up call. Rock bottom is often the beginning of real clarity. We don't wake up because life is perfect. We wake up because we realize perfection was never the goal. Presence is. Peace is. Truth is. And truth is this: you are not separate. You were never cast out. You were never abandoned. You only forgot who you are, and now you are remembering. The spiritual path is not a journey to someplace new. It is the return to where you've always been, beneath the noise, beneath the story, beneath the roles. It is peeling back the layers of identity until only presence remains, until only love remains, until only God remains. And when you touch that space, when you live from that space, you become a vessel, a living temple, not a preacher of truth, but a presence of truth. And the world does not need more preachers. It needs more presence. It needs more people who have remembered who they are and live accordingly with gentleness, with power, with purpose, with peace. You were not put here to suffer through life hoping for a reward in the afterlife. You were not sent here to prove your worth or earn your salvation. You were born to express divinity in form, to create, to heal, to love, to serve, to awaken. You are the eyes through which the universe sees itself. You are the hands through which love touches the world. You are the voice through which truth sings. And the more you align with that awareness, the more your life begins to reflect it. Not because you manipulate circumstances, but because you change your vibrational point of origin. You stop operating from fear and start operating from faith. You stop reacting from ego and start responding from essence. You stop surviving and begin thriving. This is the alchemy of awakening. When you stop seeking God as something external and begin realizing that every breath is a prayer, every moment is sacred, and every being is divine, your life becomes a living meditation. You find the sacred in the ordinary. You hear the infinite in the silence. You see the face of God in the mirror, not out of arrogance, but out of awe. And this is what the world needs now, not more beliefs, but more beings. Not more ideas, but more embodiment. Not more preaching, but more presence. A planet full of awakened souls who no longer search for light outside, but choose to become the light inside. Because when you light up from within, you give others permission to remember their own flame. When you walk as divinity embodied, you heal without speaking. When you love from your center, you transform the atmosphere around you. And that love, that God energy, has no limits. It is not reserved for saints and sages. It is the birthright of every soul. It is the essence of every child, every stranger, every enemy. There is no one who is not divine. There is only consciousness that has forgotten itself. And when you meet someone who has forgotten, your role is not to judge, your role is to remind. To remind by your presence, to remind by your compassion, to remind by your peace. Because the moment you see God in another, you activate the God in them. The moment you forgive, you invite another into their own freedom. The moment you speak truth without fear, you become a lighthouse in the fog. And the fog is thick right now. The world is noisy. The world is afraid. The world has built a shrine to the ego and forgotten the altar of the soul. But even in this darkness, the light within has not dimmed. It only waits for your awareness to return. So come home to yourself. Come home to the truth that has always been waiting beneath your breath. You are not missing. You are not flawed. You are not behind. You are not unworthy. You are divine. You are radiant. You are the energy of God dancing in human form. You don't need to chase enlightenment. You need to embody what you already are. So breathe, not just to survive, but to remember. Breathe in your wholeness. Breathe in your innocence. Breathe in your connection to all that is. And when the world tries to distract you, return to this breath. Return to this moment. Return to the energy that beats your heart and births the stars, because that energy is you. You are the temple and the flame. You are the question and the answer. You are the seeker and the source. And when you live from this knowing, life becomes a sacred flow. Challenges become opportunities to deepen your truth. Loss becomes a portal into love. Conflict becomes a classroom for compassion. Every experience becomes a step in your return to the truth. The truth that God is not outside of you. God is not in the sky waiting for you to be perfect. God is not a judge watching you through a lens of sin. God is the breath inside your breath, the stillness behind your thoughts, the love that you feel when all the noise fades. You are not separate. You never were. You just forgot. And now you are remembering. And in that remembering, you are reborn. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the search loses its meaning, not because the search failed, but because the search was always a mirror leading inward. The maps you followed, the teachings you clung to, the gurus you revered, the rituals you performed, all of them were stepping stones, sacred, yes, but not destinations. They were never meant to lead you to something outside of you, but to bring you back to the holy stillness within. The silent sanctuary, where nothing is missing and no part of you is exiled. This moment, this breath, is your arrival. Not in time, but in truth. When you release the idea that you must become something more to be worthy of the divine, you enter the dimension of being. And being is not passive, being is not empty, being is a cosmic radiance. It is a living alignment. It is the holy reverence that comes when you stand in your center without effort, without masks, without needing to prove your light to a world that's forgotten its own. You don't become divine by reaching upward. You become divine by sinking inward. And as you do, you realize that stillness is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of God. It is the space from which all miracles arise, the field where form and formlessness meet. In that space, you remember that you are not here to master life like a test. You are here to merge with it like a dance, to move in rhythm with the intelligence that breathes stars into existence and still takes the time to open a flower. There is no arrogance in this knowing, only awe, only humility, only the peace that comes when you stop trying to contain the infinite within your mind and instead allow your heart to become its home. For the ego seeks to grasp, the soul seeks to surrender. The ego builds identity out of pain, out of story, out of past. The soul simply is unburdened, eternal, whole. And every time you choose presence over performance, truth over illusion, love over defense, you dissolve another layer of separation and step more fully into the light that has always been waiting. You don't need to heal yourself into worthiness. You only need to remember that the light you long for is not something to earn, it is something to uncover. And as you uncover it, something begins to shift, not just within you, but around you. The world starts responding differently. Not because the outer world changed, but because your inner signal did. Like a radio that finally tunes to the right frequency, you begin to hear a different song, a quieter song, a truer one. You begin to recognize guidance in what once felt random. You begin to feel supported in ways that defy logic. You begin to trust life, not because it always makes sense, but because you no longer need it to. You begin to understand that the energy that created this universe, the energy that shaped galaxies, composed the laws of nature, painted the skies with sunsets and orchestrated the tides, is not distant from you. It flows through you. It animates you. It breathes you. And when you live from this awareness, your actions become expressions of love instead of fear. Your relationships become altars of growth instead of battlegrounds of control. Your words become vessels of truth instead of weapons of validation. This is what it means to live as the soul and not as the mask. This is what it means to walk the earth as divinity incarnate. You no longer see others as threats or strangers, but as reflections, sacred echoes, each one offering you the chance to practice remembrance. And the more you remember, the more you soften. The more you soften, the more you heal. And the more you heal, the more others heal just by being in your field. This is the quiet revolution of awakened presence. It changes the world not through force, but through frequency. And this frequency is not loud, it's not desperate, it's not defensive, it's gentle, like the light that enters a room without knocking, like the wind that moves the trees without needing to be seen, like love that simply loves, without agenda, without demand, without needing to be returned. This is how the divine works, not as a ruler, but as a presence, not as a command, but as a current. And the more you surrender to this current, the more your life becomes a river instead of a struggle. Not without pain, not without challenge, but with an unshakable foundation of peace that whispers, even in the storm, you are not alone. The storm does not mean you are forsaken. The wound does not mean you are broken. The doubt does not mean you have failed. It means you are growing. It means the veil is thinning. It means you are being called to remember, again, not in concept, but in embodiment. Not just to know that God is within, but to live as though it were unmistakably true. To live as though the breath you take is divine intelligence entering your body. To live as though every act of kindness is a prayer in motion. To live as though your very presence is a sanctuary where others remember their light. This is not spiritual idealism. This is radical realism, to see beyond the illusion of fear and touch the deeper truth of love that holds it all. Because what is God, if not love itself? Not the fragile love that says, only if you earn it. Not the conditional love that keeps score. Not the fleeting love that changes with behavior, but the eternal, boundless, all-pervading love that simply is. The love that has no opposite. The love that includes every shadow. The love that redeems without punishment. The love that burns away the illusion of separation with a single glance. And you are here to be the mirror of that love. Not in perfection, but in presence. Not by trying to become it, but by removing everything that blocks it. Every time you let go of judgment, you make room for that love. Every time you forgive yourself, you open the window to that love. Every time you choose compassion over condemnation, you become a vessel for that love. Not just for others, but for yourself. Because you too are worthy of the grace you give so easily to others. You too are worthy of returning home to yourself, not someday, not when you're better, but now. Now, when you are still tangled in your questions. Now, when you are still healing your wounds. Now, when the light inside is a flicker instead of a flame, that flicker is enough. That breath is enough. That moment of truth is enough to begin again. And beginning again is the most spiritual act there is. Because every moment offers the possibility of awakening. Every moment is holy ground when you walk it with awareness. And every time you choose to remember, even for a second, that God is not outside of you, the veil thins a little more. Until one day, you stop looking for the divine and you simply become it. There is a sacred humility that descends upon the soul when it no longer needs to shine, not because it doubts its light, but because it has become the light. This is not a performance. This is not the ego's idea of enlightenment. This is the quiet authority of one who has stopped seeking approval and started walking in alignment. A person who no longer needs the world to recognize their divinity because they have already recognized it within. This is the true birth of power, not control, not domination, not force, but alignment. Power that flows without resistance, power that heals without effort, power that liberates without preaching. You do not need to argue with darkness. You only need to turn on the light. And the light within you does not flicker with the opinion of others. It does not waver in the face of rejection. It does not vanish when things fall apart, because it is not built on circumstance. It is built on truth, eternal truth, the kind that existed before your story began and will remain long after your story ends. And this is what ego can never understand, that it is not your job to become something more, but to unbecome all that is false. Not to gather more things, more achievements, more spiritual credentials, but to surrender, to shed, to simplify, to become so empty of illusion that only truth remains. The ego resists this. It clings, it calculates, it compares, it builds altars to its own identity. But no altar built by the ego can contain the presence of the divine. God is not a possession. God is not a trophy for the enlightened. God is not a point to be proven. God is the breath between your thoughts, the peace underneath your pain, the space that remains when all self-concepts dissolve. You find it not by becoming more, but by becoming still. And in that stillness, you begin to see clearly. You begin to see how much of your suffering came not from life itself, but from your resistance to it, from believing the lie that life was against you, that you were unworthy, that you had to earn love, prove worth, fight for peace. But peace was never a destination. It was always your nature. Love was never a reward. It was always your essence. And God was never out there. God was always the witness, the seer, the still presence within. As this truth anchors deeper, your relationship with life itself transforms. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what part of me is ready to be healed through this? You stop resisting discomfort and begin welcoming it as the doorway to a deeper awareness. You stop fearing loss and begin recognizing every ending as an initiation into expansion. Nothing is wasted when you see through the eyes of the soul. Even your heartbreak becomes holy. Even your failures become fuel. Even your loneliness becomes a sacred invitation, not to fill the void, but to become intimate with it, to rest in it, to realize that beneath the loneliness is longing, and beneath the longing is love, not the love that comes and goes, but the love that you are. You are not the absence looking for completion. You are the completeness rediscovering itself through this temporary form. And so you begin to live differently, not with the frantic pace of the mind, but with the graceful rhythm of the soul. You begin to trust in timing, to surrender to process, to move not from fear, but from deep inner resonance. You say no, not to reject, but to honor alignment. You say yes, not to please, but to follow joy. You walk away not to escape, but to return to yourself. And in doing so, you begin to see the world not as a battlefield, but as a reflection. Not as a place to conquer, but as a mirror to awaken you. Every interaction becomes a chance to remember. Every trigger becomes a chance to release. Every breath becomes a chance to return home. And what is home? Home is the place within you that needs no validation. Home is the truth that has no opposite. Home is not somewhere you arrive.
Home is where you live when you are no longer pretending to be anything but what you are, a spark of the divine wrapped in human form, here for a blink of eternity to remember what cannot be forgotten. You are not here to suffer. You are here to wake up. You are here to love, not as a strategy, but as a state of being. You are here to touch the fabric of life with reverence, to speak with sincerity, to walk with integrity, to listen deeply, and to give freely from the well of your soul. And in doing so, you become what the world has forgotten, a living presence of the sacred. You become the prayer. You become the temple. You become the embodiment of what the scriptures tried to describe. Because the greatest scripture is not in a book. It is written in your being. It is etched in your stillness. It is spoken in your silence. And in that silence, you know not with the mind, but with the soul, that there is nothing left to seek. There is only this moment and the divine pulse that animates it. You are not becoming divine. You are remembering that you never stopped being it. And that remembering is enough to change everything. There is a moment, quiet, unannounced, when all seeking falls away, not because the world has changed, but because you have remembered what the world forgot. You no longer stand at the edge of the ocean asking it to show itself. You simply step in, you merge, you dissolve the illusion of separation and become one with the current. This is what it means to return to God, not to a skybound deity, but to the source that has always been flowing in your breath, rising in your intuition, beating in the very center of your chest. And in this return, you discover what cannot be taught, that love is not something you give, receive, or find. Love is what you are. You were not sent here to search for it. You were sent here to embody it. And when you embody love, not the fragile imitation born of fear and control, but the love that includes every part of you, even the broken places, you become a miracle in motion. You become the kind of presence that doesn't need to speak in order to teach. You simply are. And your being reminds others of what they've always been. You walk differently now, not in haste, but in grace. You listen differently now, not to answer, but to feel. You speak differently now, not to impress, but to align. You live not from a desperate desire to prove your worth, but from a quiet knowing that you are the breath of God in human form. There is nothing to defend. There is nothing to fix. There is only this presence unshaken, unconditioned, and untouched by the storms of the mind. You have not arrived at this place through perfection. You arrived through surrender, through the falling away of every illusion that told you God was separate from your breath, from your body, from your being. You are not here to rise above your humanity. You are here to bring divinity into it, into the chaos, into the relationships, into the heartbreak, the joy, the tension, the ordinary moment, because that is where God lives. Not just in the mountaintops and temples, but in the mundane, in the unseen, in the imperfect. And you are the sacred bridge. You are the place where heaven and earth meet. Not someday, now, in this breath, in this body, in this life. So stop waiting for a sign. You are the sign. Stop waiting for permission. You are the permission. Stop waiting for someone to save you. You are the remembering that saves the world. Not through might, not through noise, but through presence, through peace, through the quiet, unwavering embodiment of the truth that has no opposite, that God has never been outside, that God is not in the sky, that God is not in some distant realm waiting for your perfection. God is here. God is now. God is within your choices, within your silence, within the love you extend when no one is watching, within the courage to forgive when the world says hate, within the softening when your ego wants to harden, within the breath you take when you choose to return to the stillness that has always held you. You don't need to transcend the world. You need to infuse it with your light. Let the divine radiate through your laughter, through your tears, through your vulnerability and truth. Let it pour through your presence like a sacred current. Let it touch every room you enter, not because you're trying, but because you're finally being who you are. You are not a seeker anymore. You are a rememberer. And the memory is no longer distant. It is here. It is now. It is you. So walk gently, boldly, truthfully. Let your life be your prayer. Let your breath be your altar. Let your love be your message. And when the world forgets, and it will be the one who remembers. Remember that every person is carrying the same spark, even if they have buried it. Remember that every conflict is a call for love, not for war. Remember that your past is not a prison, but a portal. Remember that this moment, yes, this very one, is sacred. You are not here by accident. You are not made of mistakes. You are made of stars, of breath, of ancient light. And when you die, and you will not meet God. You will dissolve into God. You will return to what you never left. But until that day, let every step you take be a celebration of the truth you've remembered. That God is not outside. It's the energy inside. And it always has been. And it always will be. Now breathe. Smile. You are home. You are free. You are divine. There is a rhythm to this universe that no clock can capture, no calendar can predict. It is the rhythm of the divine. It moves not according to your impatience, not by your logic, and not by your ego's demands, but by something infinitely wiser, infinitely vaster. Divine timing is not late, not early, and never wrong. It arrives like the tide, not to meet your schedule, but to meet your soul's evolution. When you begin to understand this, not as a concept, but as a living truth etched into the silence of your being, something inside you relaxes. You stop measuring your life by the ticking of time and start measuring it by the expansion of your awareness. You no longer say, why hasn't it happened yet? But rather, what am I being prepared for? There is no coincidence. There is no accident. Every delay, every detour, every door that would not open was not a rejection, it was a redirection. Life, in its infinite intelligence, has never denied you anything. It has only ever rerouted you to something more aligned with who you are becoming. But the ego does not see alignment. It only sees delay. It only sees absence. It only sees lack. That is because the ego lives in time. The soul lives in truth. And truth is never rushed. The acorn does not argue with the oak it's destined to become. It doesn't complain about how long it takes. It doesn't wish to be another tree. It simply surrenders to the season it is in. It trusts the dark soil and the silent work happening beneath the surface. So must you. You are not being delayed. You are being deepened. We suffer not because life withholds, but because we cling. We cling to timelines, to expectations, to ideas of how and when things must unfold. But divine timing does not ask for your timeline. It asks for your trust. And trust is not passive, it is the most powerful act of surrender. Trust is choosing to believe that even when nothing makes sense, everything is working. That even in silence, there is movement. That even in stillness, something sacred is being orchestrated beyond your view. What appears stagnant is often the space where transformation takes root. The butterfly is not born because the caterpillar pushes harder. It is born because the time is right. And the time is always right, but only to the one who has stopped resisting what is. You were not born to race the clock. You were born to awaken. And awakening does not happen according to schedule. It happens in divine time when the conditions are ready within you, when your spirit is ripe for remembering, when you're finally tired of forcing and start listening instead, listening not to the noise of the world, but to the whisper within you that says, be still, trust this. There is a part of you, ancient, infinite, eternal, that already knows this truth. It is the part of you that has never been in a hurry. It is the part of you that does not panic in the pause. It is the part of you that recognizes that nothing real can be lost and nothing meant for you will pass you by. Let that part of you speak louder now, because everything that you've been waiting for, everything your heart aches to see, is not outside of you. It's unfolding in the unseen. Life is not denying you, it is preparing you. Every unanswered prayer is not a punishment, it is a protection, a recalibration, a sacred pause to make space for something greater. Divine timing does not work to make you comfortable. It works to make you conscious. You see, when you are truly ready, not mentally, not emotionally, but spiritually, you will find that what you once chased begins to arrive without effort. The partner, the peace, the purpose, they do not show up because you demanded them. They show up because you became a vibrational match. Divine timing does not bring you what you want. It brings you what you are ready to hold. And to be ready is to be whole. To be whole is to no longer seek from lack, but to offer from fullness. You stop praying for something to complete you and start radiating the energy that attracts all things naturally. You stop chasing what you think is missing, and you realize nothing is missing. You are already in sacred company, already on holy ground, already part of a divine unfolding that your mind may not understand, but your soul has always trusted. It takes courage to live this way, to let go of your plans, to surrender your agenda, to breathe through the discomfort of not knowing. But this courage is the doorway to miracles. Because miracles do not happen on your timeline, they happen on God's. And God's timing is never rushed by your worry. It is not disrupted by your fear. It is not swayed by your doubt. Divine timing flows from a place that is beyond manipulation, beyond control, beyond your will. It is born from alignment. And alignment comes not from pushing, but from allowing. So let yourself allow the unanswered to be sacred. Allow the delays to be divine. Allow the waiting to be holy. Do not despise the space between the seed and the bloom. Do not curse the rain, the dark, or the dormant. Every season has its place in your becoming. You are not being punished by time. You are being initiated by it. Initiated into patience, into presence, into peace, into the kind of inner freedom that does not depend on outer events, into the kind of knowing that no longer rushes toward the future because it has finally remembered the presence of now. Now is always sacred. Now is always enough. Now is always on time. Even your pain has its purpose. Even your confusion is a corridor. Even your heartbreak is a holy teacher. Not one tear is wasted. Not one setback is random. Every piece of your story is being woven into something radiant, something only divine timing could orchestrate. But here's what you must understand. The soul does not measure progress by speed. It measures it by surrender. It does not ask how far you've come. It asks how deeply you've trusted. And trust is the pathway to all things unseen. Divine timing is the language of the soul. And your soul is fluent in its silence. So slow down, breathe, let go of your deadlines. Release the white-knuckled grip you have around the future. You are not behind. You are not off track. You are not too late. You are exactly where you are meant to be, not by accident, but by grace. You are not waiting for life to begin. Life is waiting for you to open, to soften, to receive what has always been yours, but only at the appointed time. And that time will not be announced. It will arrive like a breeze, quiet, unexpected, transformational. And you will know, not because of a sign in the sky, but because your soul will sigh. Now Now is the moment. Now is the miracle. Now is always divine. You are not late for your life. That idea only exists in a world ruled by comparison. But your soul does not compare. It unfolds. Like the petals of a lotus, it opens in its own rhythm, untouched by the clock, unmoved by the pressure. The soul does not bloom because others have. It blooms because the moment is right, because the inner soil has been tilled by tears, softened by surrender, and nourished by grace. You are not behind, you are becoming. When you accept this, truly accept it, the anxiety begins to dissolve. You stop racing the phantom of someone else's path. You stop chasing a version of success that was never written for your spirit. And you start living from presence instead of pressure. You no longer look at someone else's breakthrough and feel small. You look and you remember their time is not your time. Their purpose is not your purpose. The divine does not duplicate destinies. It only fulfills them in unique and perfect ways. Let that truth free you. There is no peace in the timeline your ego demands. There is only tension. There is only striving. There is only a constant hunger to arrive somewhere other than here. But you cannot arrive at peace by abandoning presence. You cannot reach joy by resenting the now. You cannot taste the fruit before the roots are formed. Divine timing is the great teacher of this truth. Every delay has been a blessing in disguise. You may not see it in the moment, but one day you will look back and say, thank God that didn't happen when I wanted it to. Because you weren't ready then, not because you were flawed, but because life was still preparing the soil, still shaping the circumstances, still healing the fractures you hadn't even seen, still aligning the pieces in a way that only spirit could orchestrate. Readiness is not determined by desire. Readiness is a vibration. It is the energy of wholeness. When you vibrate in alignment with what you seek, you don't have to chase it, it meets you. That is the magic of divine timing. It doesn't answer your prayers in panic, it answers them in peace. And it waits until you're home within yourself before it delivers what you've asked for. You are not forgotten, you are not unseen. The delay is not a denial, it is a doorway. A doorway into deeper faith, a doorway into greater trust, a doorway into the kind of inner clarity that cannot be shaken by the winds of time. You are not being punished by waiting, you are being prepared by it. The wait is the work. The pause is the place where the sacred rearranges you so that when the right moment comes, you don't sabotage it with your fear. You were never meant to force anything, you were meant to flow with everything. Look at nature. The rivers do not rush to their destination. They meander, they carve, they flow. Not by urgency, but by surrender. And still, they arrive. The seasons do not compete. Winter does not rush to be spring. Each one honors its time, and so must you. There is beauty in honoring your season, even if it looks like stillness to the world. It may be the most active time for your soul. The greatest transformations happen in the dark. The seed does not sprout in the light. It breaks open beneath the surface, in silence, in obscurity. And you too may feel buried right now. But you are not buried, you are planted. You are in the sacred stage of becoming. And when the timing is right, nothing and no one will stop the bloom. So be gentle with yourself. Speak to yourself the way Spirit would speak. With love, with patience, with reassurance. Tell yourself, I may not see it yet, but I trust that everything is unfolding perfectly. Let this trust become your practice. Let it become your prayer. Let it become the lens through which you see every delay, every closed door, every unanswered question. Because sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is wait without worry. Breathe without rushing. Be without proving. Let life come to you in its own way, in its own time, with its own kind of perfection. There is nothing wrong with you because it hasn't happened yet. There is only ripening, there is only alignment, there is only divine orchestration happening in the unseen, shaping what your eyes cannot yet perceive. And it is not your job to control the how or the when. Your job is only to remain open, willing, and rooted in trust. The divine does not forget its appointments. It never misses its cue. It is not late, it is precise. And when your moment comes, when the door opens, when the alignment strikes like lightning across the sky of your being, you will know it was worth every unanswered question, every tear, every moment of doubt. Because the gift that arrives in divine timing is never just what you wanted, it's what your soul needed all along. That's the difference. What the ego wants often comes with a price, but what spirit delivers comes with peace. You do not have to sacrifice your soul for what is meant for you. You only have to align with the truth of who you are and allow life to meet you there. Do not confuse stillness with stagnation. The universe is never still. Even when the surface seems quiet, the depths are in motion. So too are you. Even now, something within you is shifting. Even now, you are becoming a more fertile ground for the miracles you once begged for. You are the prayer. You are the timing. You are the place where God shows up, not in fireworks, but in presence. Not in drama, but in alignment. Trust this. Trust the closed doors, for they are divine detours. Trust the quiet, for it is the soil of revelation. Trust the unanswered prayers, for they are the guardians of greater blessings. Trust the seasons of isolation, for they are the spaces where spirit reshapes you without distraction. Most of all, trust that you are not waiting for life. Life is waiting for you to stop running, to stop grasping, to stop forcing, and simply become still enough to be found by the grace that is already on its way. Let yourself be found. Let yourself be held. Let yourself believe that divine timing is not a punishment, but a promise. A promise that what is truly for you cannot be lost, missed, or delayed. It can only arrive exactly when you are ready to receive it fully. And when it does, it will feel like coming home. Not to a place, but to yourself. The greatest illusion the ego maintains is the belief that we are in charge of time, that we are the masters of beginnings and endings, that we can orchestrate the symphony of life according to our own design. But the soul knows better. The soul knows it is not the conductor, it is the instrument. And when we surrender to divine timing, we allow ourselves to be played by the hands of the infinite. What emerges from that surrender is not weakness, it is music. A harmony that could never have been composed by the mind. A melody that rises only when the heart is still and open. You begin to notice that what you thought was a setback was a setup. That what you perceived as loss was actually rearrangement. That what you judged as stagnation was spiritual gestation. You were not forgotten in the silence, you were being softened. Softened so that you could receive, not just externally, but internally. Because nothing that arrives externally will fulfill you until you are inwardly prepared to hold it with reverence. Divine timing ensures that what is meant for you will not only enter your life, it will remain in your life, because you will have become someone who can sustain it. That is why you must trust the wait. There is a divine architecture to your life that cannot be mapped by intellect. It can only be revealed through surrender. You do not see the blueprint, but the builder does. And the builder is never careless. Every beam of timing, every brick of delay, every window of uncertainty is placed with sacred precision. When you stand in the house of your destiny, you will see that even the crooked walls were necessary to bring you home to yourself. But you must be willing to release the illusion of control. Control is the armor of the fearful. It says, if I just try harder, push faster, manipulate better, I can make life bend to my will. But life does not bend to will. It flows through trust. Control may give the illusion of progress, but trust brings the reality of peace. And peace is the foundation upon which all divine things are built. You were never meant to strive your way into blessings. You were meant to align your way into them. Alignment is the holy yes to life as it is. It does not mean you give up desire. It means your desire no longer comes from lack. It comes from love. It means you no longer say, I must have this to be whole, but instead, I welcome this from my wholeness. And when you live from wholeness, timing becomes your ally, not your enemy. The ego says, you should be there by now. The soul says, you are right on time. Every soul blooms in divine sequence. The oak tree does not bloom in spring like the cherry blossom, and the cherry blossom does not judge the cactus for blooming under the desert sun. Every soul has its season. Every path has its pace. And when you honor your own, you free yourself from the suffering of comparison. Comparison is the thief of peace. It convinces you that your worth is measured by how fast you manifest. But true manifestation is not about speed. It's about alignment, resonance, readiness. It's about becoming a vessel that can carry the magnitude of what you've asked for. The universe is not withholding from you, it is waiting for your energy to rise to the level of your request. This is the great invitation of divine timing. To rise, not to race. To rise into patience, into purpose, into presence. To let your growth be the magnet that draws what is meant for you. You do not find your blessings by chasing them. You attract them by becoming who you were born to be. And who you were born to be does not panic in the waiting. Who you were born to be remembers that delays are sacred, that detours are instructional, that even endings are beginnings wearing a different costume. You stop resisting what is and begin listening to what is rising. Because when divine timing moves, it doesn't announce itself. It arrives like dawn, quiet, golden, unmistakable. And those who have learned to trust the dark can receive the light without fear. They no longer cling to the old. They no longer force the new. They allow, they accept, they flow. They trust that every season of their life is a classroom for the soul. You are not late, you are learning. You are not forgotten, you are forming. You are not abandoned, you are being aligned. And when you are aligned, nothing is lost. Everything that is meant for you will find you, not in the chaos of effort, but in the stillness of faith. Faith is not blind belief. Faith is deep remembrance, a return to the knowing that you are already held by something infinitely wise, something that sees 10,000 steps ahead, something that knows exactly when to close a door and exactly when to swing it wide open. Let that knowing soothe you. Let it quiet the voice that says, it should have happened by now. Let it dissolve the anxiety that clings to clocks and deadlines. Let it remind you that you are not on the world's time, you are on soul time. And soul time does not run on urgency, it runs on expansion. The more you expand, the less you force. The more you trust, the more you receive. The more you surrender, the more life reveals its mysterious grace. You begin to walk not ahead of yourself, not behind yourself, but with yourself. And in that sacred companionship with your own soul, you arrive at the only place you were ever meant to be, here. Now, this moment, this breath, this is where divine timing begins, not in some future manifestation, but in your willingness to be fully present with what is. This moment is not in the way, it is the way. It is the seedbed of everything that is coming. It is the holy ground on which your future takes root. Honor it, bless it, trust it. So here you are, not waiting anymore, but awakening, not chasing anymore, but becoming, not counting the hours, but consecrating the moment. And in this holy surrender, something shifts, something softens, something returns. You remember what the ego worked so hard to forget, that you were never separate from the timing of the divine. You were never off course. You were never out of sync. You were always being guided, always being led, always being shaped, not by delay, but by design. Every ache in your chest was a crack through which the light entered. Every prayer that seemed unanswered was an echo, reverberating through a larger orchestration. You could not see it, but the hands of grace were always moving, always aligning, always waiting for you to let go, not because you were being punished, but because your fists were clenched too tightly to receive the miracle. And now you know, the waiting was never empty. It was sacred. It was the chrysalis that transformed you slowly and invisibly into someone who could carry more light. Someone who could love without condition. Someone who no longer begged the universe for answers, but bowed to its wisdom. You are not who you were. The self who demanded the world move faster has dissolved. The self who needed everything to make sense has softened. What remains is truer, quieter, more spacious. You are now a vessel that can receive without needing to control, that can trust without needing to understand. And this trust is the gateway to freedom. Because freedom is not found in having everything you want exactly when you want it. It is found in realizing you are whole, even when nothing has arrived yet. It is found in breathing peacefully through the unknown. It is found in the sacred recognition that everything unfolds not by your command, but by divine alignment. And divine alignment has never failed you. It has placed you in the presence of teachers cloaked as hardship. It has rearranged your plans when they no longer matched your evolution. It has cracked open your heart so that it could stretch wide enough to hold the immensity of love you once feared. And it has brought you here not by mistake, but by miracle. So let the old story fall away now, the one that said you were too late, too behind, too broken, too lost. Let that voice go. It was never your soul speaking. It was your conditioning, echoing in the hallways of your past. But you are not your past. You are not the missed opportunities, the abandoned dreams, the closed doors, the should-haves, or the timelines that unraveled. You are this moment. You are the breath that expands without effort. You are the awareness that watches without judgment. You are the presence that listens without trying to fix. You are the light that remained, even in the longest night. You are the calm after the storm, the clarity after the chaos, the stillness after the striving. You are what was always meant to be. And what is meant for you, truly meant for you, cannot be rushed. It cannot be missed. It cannot be destroyed. It can only arrive when you are fully ready to receive it. Not with trembling hands, but with an open heart. Not with desperation, but with devotion. So take this breath, take this moment, and know, nothing is wasted. No part of your journey has been a detour. Every step has led you here. Every loss carved space for grace. Every silence deepened your listening. Every delay was a message from the divine saying, not yet, because something greater is forming. And now, you're no longer fighting that truth. You're welcoming it. You're no longer demanding your life bend to your timing. You're flowing with the mystery of it all. You're no longer trying to outrun the pain. You're walking through it with open eyes and a steady heart, knowing that even this is part of the rhythm. You're not who you were. You're not who you thought you had to be. You are who you always were, beneath the fear. A soul in perfect harmony with a universe that never makes a mistake. And now you walk differently. Not faster, not more forcefully, but with reverence, with grace, with a quiet knowing that whatever is coming is already yours, that you don't have to run toward it, you just have to rise into it. You just have to meet it by being the truest expression of yourself. And that is freedom. Freedom from urgency, freedom from self-judgment, freedom from timelines built on fear. This is the liberation of the soul that knows, I don't have to rush, I don't have to beg, I don't have to grasp, I just have to trust, open, allow, and life will meet me there. And when it does, it will not be because you forced it, it will be because you became it. The miracle will not come to rescue you, it will come to reflect you. It will not arrive to prove your worth. It will arrive because you finally remembered you were worthy all along. This is the divine unfolding. This is the sacred rhythm. This is your soul, awake and alive, moving with the timing of eternity. So now, breathe. Not because you're waiting for something, but because you are something. You are not waiting for the right time. You are the right time. You are the light that dawns in perfect silence. And divine timing is always right.